Good morning, student. Now we have studied the pancreas as an endocrine gland and its secretion. Last lecture we have studied the how the synthesis of insulin takes place in beta cells of islets of Langerhans and how it is stored. In continuation with that, today we will study the how this insulin is released or secreted in the circulation. Now, as we know, we all know the structure of pancreas. Inside pancreas, the histology, then it consists of acini, this already we have studied, and in between there is islets of Langerhans. The islets of Langerhans, they are consist of different types of cells which are responsible for endocrine secretion of pancreas. So these cells include alpha cells which secrete glucagon, beta cells which secrete insulin, delta cells which secrete somatostatin, and F cells or which secrete pancreatic polypeptides. So this is, so if you expand this structure, the islets of Langerhans will concern with the beta cell only. So we have a beta cell here. So I'll expand this. This is the pancreas. And we have a beta cell. So I'll draw one beta cell structure so that we can study how this hormone it is secreted in the circulation. So we have a circulation, or you can say blood vessels surrounding this. So what is the stimulus for secretion of insulin? Must be a stimulus which responsible for secretion of insulin. So post absorptive state or after feeding or fed test, there is increase in the level of glucose in the circulation. Okay, and this glucose is the most important stimulus for secretion of insulin. How it senses or how it responsible for synthesis of release of insulin, that we'll study. Now on the beta cells of pancreas, there are special receptors which are present on the beta cells of pancreas membrane of the beta cells. These receptors are called GLUT2, or these are transporters. So GLUT2 transporters. Stands for glucose transporter type 2. There are different types of transporters are present for transport of glucose inside the cell. So like a GLUT2, GLUT4. So on the specific organ, in the specific organ or on the membrane, cell membrane, there are specific these transporters are present. Now GLUT2 transporters, they are present on the membrane of pancreas, that is beta cells, and on the hepatocytes. Okay. The most important peculiarity of this GLUT2 transporter is that these transporters are not dependent on insulin concentration or insulin for transport of this glucose inside the cell. So they are permeable. There is a facilitated transport of glucose in the cell by this 2 transporter, they are independent of insulin action. But so when the glucose enters in the cell, what will happen to this glucose? So increase in the glucose concentration, which increase the concentration of glucose inside the cell of, suppose this is glucose of the beta cell. So this glucose is phosphorylated. As usual, when the glucose in the glycolytic pathway, it is phosphorylated glucose 6 phosphate. So once it is phosphorylated glucose 6 phosphate, as you know, glucose is trapped inside. The glucose cannot go outside. So glucose 6 phosphate, and this undergo glycolytic pathway and converted to pyruvate. This we have studied the glycolysis of glucose, that is the glycolytic pathway, and this pyruvate is converted to acetyl coenzyme A. Acetyl coenzyme A enters into Krebs cycle or TCA cycle, okay, and this results into formation of NADH plus H plus FADH2. What? So these NADH plus H plus and FADH2 then enter into electron transport chain and will get a ATP after oxidation of glucose. So we'll get a ATPs as a energy. Now increase concentration of ATPs. This ATPs level, when it increases in the cell, that is in the beta cells of pancreas, what will happen? It will act on one particular receptors which are present on the surface of this membrane. These receptors are called ATP sensitive potassium channel. Receptors, or you can say the channels, okay. ATP sensitive potassium channels. These channels are normally they are permeable for the potassium ions to free movement of the potassium, and the potassium concentration in the cells, it is more, so it goes out and inside, so there is a free movement of potassium and ions across the membrane, and because of this there is a normal resting membrane potassium that is about minus 75 millivolt in case of this beta cell. But now because of this increase in the concentration of ATP, this ATP binds with these channels, ATP sensitive channels, and this will block this potassium channel. Okay, so the blocking of the potassium ion results in the increase the concentration of positive ions inside the cell, and that results into depolarization of the cell membrane. That means the positivity will increase. So minus 75 millivolt will become the minus 50 millivolt. So inside the positivity of the cell increase and cell membrane increase, and that results into depolarization of the cell membrane. What? So this way the depolarization of this membrane takes place. What? Now because of the depolarization, there are one more type of receptors which are present on this cell membrane. So these receptors are called as a voltage gated calcium channels. These are channels, channels. So voltage gated calcium channels. Now these voltage gated calcium channels will open when there is a depolarization of this membrane, and what will happen, the calcium ions which are outside of the cell will take the entry inside. So this calcium channel will open and the calcium ions concentration inside the cell increases and these channels take entry inside this. Okay, now this entry of calcium channel, what will happen, there is a helps, these channels will help in the secretion of this hormone filled vesicles inside the outside the cell and in the blood circulation. So as you know, the insulin, it is a store in the secretory vesicles. Okay, so there are insulin inside and along with the C peptide inside the cell. So these vesicles, they are come close to this membrane. That means the membrane having some proteins, and cell, this vesicle membrane also have proteins. These proteins, they come together, that is by the help of synaptic proteins, and this vesicle is emptied in the circulation. Okay, so whatever the insulin is present in the vesicle along with the C peptide, it is secreted in the blood. So blood contain insulin and C peptide. So this is the way the actual secretion of, isn't it, whatever the insulin vesicles are there in the blood takes place. So here the most important thing is that glucose acts as an important stimulus for the secretion of insulin in the circulation, in the blood. So rising blood level is responsible for secretion of insulin in the blood. That's why when there is a hyperglycemia, the insulin causes secretion, the beta cells cause secretion of insulin, and that will regulate the blood sugar level. So this is about how the insulin, it is secreted, isn't it, in the blood. Now along with the insulin, there is one more peptide called C peptide. So we have talked this when we have studied the synthesis of insulin also. So what happened to this, what is the C peptide? So C peptide also secreted. Most important thing is that the C peptide which is secreted is of equimolar concentration to that of equimolar concentration to insulin. So it is secreted equimolar concentration to insulin. That means suppose whatever the insulin is secreted or synthesized, same amount of C peptide is secreted along with the insulin. Okay. So what is the importance of this C peptide? C peptide, it is a connection between A and B chain, and it is cleaved, isn't it, to form the biological active form of insulin. So insulin with the A and B chain with the two disulfide linkage and one intra sulfide linkage, isn't it, disulfide linkage. So that is a biological active insulin. So the importance of C peptide is that, most important thing, this peptide is, as it is secreted equimolar concentration to that insulin, so it is helpful in the measurement of concentration of insulin, isn't it? So it will give accurate idea about the concentration of insulin when you measure it. So you measure C peptide equal quantity of that of insulin, isn't it? Because the if you see the half life of insulin in the blood is about the 5 to 6 minutes, and half life of C peptide is about 30 minutes. So you can measure this accurately, the insulin concentration, with the help of C peptide. Second important of this C peptide is that C peptide is useful or it is important in the long term, isn't it? Long term effect, isn't it, of diabetes mellitus, isn't it? So this C peptide stimulate the endothelial nitric oxide. So endothelial nitric oxide secretion is stimulated. This endothelial nitric oxide is as you know, it is a vasodilator. It dilates the capillaries, and it's important in the peripheral circulation, isn't it? And also it is for the neuronal health. So peripheral circulation and neuronal health, and it is maintained by this endogenous endothelial nitric oxide, and which will prevent the condition like retinopathy or nephropathy, neuropathy in condition in a which is generally in a condition like in a diabetes mellitus. So this is very important. Along with the insulin, the C peptide is also equally important, isn't it? So it is